What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Hot Corner Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Rochon, alongside my co-host, Keaton Adamacher.
What's up, guys? Back for another episode. It's been a little bit, but we're back with some major, minor news, and we're ready to break it down. But if you're liking what you've been hearing with us, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Definitely follow us on Twitter at the Hot Corner Podcast, the Hot Corner Pod, actually. And, yeah, hit us up with a follow. Feel free to DM us anytime with questions, recommendations for the show, some ideas, and yeah, we'll definitely see what we can do about that. And yeah, what do we got? What do we got on the agenda for tonight?
Yeah, so we got some minor Blue Jays news and some pretty major Twins news. As we always do on the show, we'll start off with the more minor of the two, to which would be the Blue Jays changing the dimensions of our outfield wall at the Rogers Center. So I know Keaton's got some, I think you have the dimensions exactly in front of you.
Yeah,
so I'll pass it back to you and we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, I saw these the other day, and I immediately wanted to break them down with you just because, like, you're a big offense guy. We've always been offense guys, and so whenever we hear the fences are coming in, I feel like that's exciting in general. So just going off of that, they're bringing in their left center and right center from $375 each to $366 in left center and $357 in right
Sheesh.
center. The corners are remaining the same at $328, and center field is, I believe, staying the same at $400.
It's actually, no, that's actually being dragged into $397.
$397?
So for those of you that are thinking in your head right now, where's that 400 number? There is no longer a 400-foot fence at the Rogers Center, which is insane to think about. And actually a movie, dude. When you, just not to take over from you, but just from, I mean, not even from a Blue Jays fan perspective, just from a AL East perspective, if it couldn't get any more hitter-friendly, the Rogers Center is already a hell of a hitter's ballpark.
Yeah.
And it is now up there at the Yankee Stadium. It is up there.
It's probably number 1 and 2.
Roughly. I mean, you could
hitters.
argue the pesky pool, like, for at least for right field, but like it's still in the same division. Now you have 3 ballparks in that division that are legitimately a Little League ballpark, and it's insane.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. You've got Baltimore, who's like, wait, we just moved our stuff back.
Yeah, right.
Like, they're just like, they're the one oddballs out that are like, they're doing the opposite. And it actually kind of helped them, I thought, last year. Like, they had a lot of, like, fly balls caught on that deep track that they moved. And for those of you they don't know what I'm talking about, Baltimore, they moved their left field back, like, a lot.
I think it's actually 400 feet.
Yeah, they moved their left center and left field very, very far back. And, like, I witnessed a lot of deep fly balls that were caught, ended the inning, ended the rally. So, like, it can, it's just interesting how they're going one direction and you see the AL East rivalry go the another direction. Like,
yeah.
I just think
and
that's
Tampa's
really,
just going to remain normal.
Yeah, they have a pretty neutral field, right?
Right.
Pretty neutral, friendly, like, straight up the middle.
Neither pitcher or hitter friendly.
What's right field like in Baltimore?
Right field is a little bit shorter. Right field is that I always forget the name of it, but that
Porch?
the street. No, it's called a street. Some sort of street.
Yeah.
But it is with that big building. That is actually that porch street area is actually really short.
Yeah.
But then again, when you pull your left field fence 400 plus feet, there's no way it's hitter's ballpark anymore.
Yeah.
So
it's just that's the oddball out now.
Right.
But, like, still, if you go to an AL East game, you're likely going to see an offensive, like, showdown.
yeah, and honestly, as you mentioned before, we're both offensive guys. So I'm, especially as a Blue Jays fan, I'm really into it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what my guys can do.
Yeah, well, I got some numbers here. Sorry to throw you off.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So I actually tallied up all the would-be home runs that the Blue Jays would have from last year and how many they would have this year. And it'll surprise you. They would actually have had 54 extra homers.
Wow.
54.
That's
so
nuts.
I counted differently for guys that were coming into the team. like Kiermaier, Varsho, and Belt. And why would I? Even Merrifield, why? Because they spent most of their years last year
elsewhere,
in a totally different place.
Right, yeah.
So if I looked at their spray chart and their outs were even further than the old Rogers Center, then I counted that. Because even in the old Rogers Center, their out would have been a home run there.
So what you're telling me is that those numbers, if I'm getting you correctly, those numbers could be inflated even further.
Could be.
If you took that into account.
Yeah, and so the differences between those guys and a guy like Vlad is Vlad, I'm not going to take the home runs that were outs in another American League ballpark because those are not. I'm factoring in the ones at Rogers.
Right, of course,
and for him, he only would have had 4 more homers with these new dimensions. So it's like, and actually surprisingly, Varsho would have had 13 extra homers, and Merrifield would have had 12.
Wow!
And I know I wanted to throw that out there because Twins fans know Merrifield a lot, and he's been playing in that huge Kauffman Stadium for years.
So Merrifield would have hit 20 homers last year.
Yeah. He
20
had
plus.
He had about 12. I counted 12 with my own eye. You could get technical with some of them.
Right.
But I looked at the spray charts of his fly balls to where the new dimensions came in, and I was shocked that he came in with 12. Yeah.
And these are with, again, Merrifield's fly balls at the Rogers Center?
At the Rogers Center. And I counted, this was his fly ball. This was his fly balls.
For the entire year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He had like 12 that would have been gone.
Then Varsho, for those of you that don't know, hit 27 last year. So you said he'd have what? How many?
13 extra.
Wow. So he would have gotten up high 30s.
And yeah, who's to say that some of those home runs were hit at a big NL field? I'm still looking at it because that wasn't at Rogers. It could have been a home game, and I'm just looking at the potential, not like that would have been for sure. I'm just looking at okay, he's never played in the American League. Let's just say that's a home game. Throw him in Toronto. That's a home run that he didn't have.
Right, of course.
And we're talking about 27.
Of course, there's a lot of factors that play into it, but
yeah,
those are staggering numbers.
Yeah,
massive. I mean, and these are obviously newer. I mean, Merrifield was at the deadline last year, so he's been with Jay for half a season. But these are new additions, and I don't know if you looked into Belt or not, but he's a big guy that, I think...
I was just about to bring him up.
I think it's just... I don't know. Actually, I think San Francisco in right field might be a little bit short. Actually, I'm just saying that off the top of my head.
Kinda. Not the right center. That's Triple's alley.
Right center, definitely not. But I'm talking about dead right, like McCovey Cove.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit short.
Decent.
But it's still got the high wall.
It's a little high, yeah. High.
Still got the high wall and all that. But yeah, dude.
54 homers. So, and I do think you bring up Belt. I think it'll really all of a sudden help lefties like Belt, maybe even Biggio.
Oh, yeah.
And and I'm not saying Biggio is going to all of a sudden be a starter, all-star starter, or even just a starter. I'm saying help him out in a way you know what? Biggio was a bench player this year, but he had 4 extra homers and 20 RBIs because of that fence. He didn't shine, but he gave us that extra 4 homers that let us win that one series in Baltimore against Baltimore.
Well, moving the fence in from right center 18 feet is to 357 in right center is absolutely insane. That could help anybody out. I mean, you could be a home run hitter. You could be like Cavan and not be a home run hitter. I don't care who you are, that is helping you out.
That's what I'm saying. That extra 4 or 5 homers, that could help his career right there. That could get him an extra few million.
Right.
Yeah. It's cool.
It's definitely an offensive experiment. I am thrilled about it. I love it. I love everything about it. I love it because, that the Blue Jays are all about offense. They have been all about offense for a couple of years. They've been all about offense since the rebuild. And actually, even before that, with Joey Bats and those teams, they were all, even then, about offense. And I love that we're continuing that culture. Again, this is something that we talked about before we recorded. But something we are a little bit fearful for is obviously the pitching side of things.
Yeah.
But, again, you got to rely on your offense to make up for it. Mm-hmm. And I'm all for the tick for tack home run game. I'm all for the who can hit the most, who can drive the ball out of the ballpark the most, like who can win that battle, and whoever wins that battle wins the game at the Rogers Center. That's how it is at Yankee Stadium. Literally, Yankee Stadium is who hits the most home runs in that little porch on both sides and all that kind of stuff, and who can do this, who can do that, and offensively, Yankee Stadium is an offensive freaking show. It's all it is.
That's all it is. It's a theatrical. It's all put up for that. Exactly. Yeah. And excuse me, looking at the pitching numbers, so we had 54. Sorry, 54 total home runs, and that was from like starters. I counted starters, starting position players. Now I'm looking at just starting pitchers. I counted about 20 homers that the staff would have given up this year with the new dimensions. The two guys, though, that were like worrisome were Barrios and Bassett. Guys like Gosman, even Kikuchi and Manoah didn't look.
Wow.
They didn't look phased. They maybe gave up 2 or 3 more, but Barrios would. Yeah, like
it might be because he got jacked though.
Yeah.
yeah.
But Barrios, he only gave up like 5 extra, and Bassett would have given up 8 extra. And this is their fly ball spray charts. So, they're not. No one's ever gonna just go out and do exactly what they did last year. No one's saying that means Barrios will give up 5 more and Bassett will give up 8 more. It just means that their coaching staff, they're going to have to look at what pitches they threw in those situations, how they can throw it differently, like what, you know what I mean? Like they're going to have different game plans now to limit fly balls in that area of the field.
Well, definitely. No.
Especially for Barrios and Bassett. Maybe not Manoah. They're going to have a little more like confidence in him to attack the zone. So maybe we'll see some more breaking balls from Barrios, more changeups. Like how are they? They're going to have to throw some more balance off to limit.
Well, definitely is going to have to take a strategy. It's definitely not going to be the same approach necessarily, even though, I mean, again, I'm going to reiterate, there's no place that is 400 feet in that ballpark. When you think about it like that, subtract everything you just said with all the numbers and everything, when you literally just say it like that, just that alone, pitching has to change. Mm-hmm. The strategy's got to change.
More ground balls.
And I'm honestly in for it. I'm in for it because, again, that's how they're going to have to pitch at Yankee Stadium in the big moments against their rival. That's how they're going to have to pitch in Boston against their rival. That is how they're going to have to pitch at those 3 ballparks, including the Rogers Center now. And it's just, they knew already how to pitch in a hitter-friendly ballpark. They're just going to have to kind of put those strategy and up it and amp it a little bit further. And I think they can do it. I think Pete Walker's an awesome pitching coach. Not that it necessarily is his job to go out there and pitch. But, I think it's awesome that they're kind of filling that void a little bit. And they already – a team, for example, like let's just use the Twins because they're the partners with the podcast, obviously, for your favorite team. If they were to bring in their fences, since that's technically a pitcher's ballpark, they wouldn't know what to do as much, right? Where the Jays and the Yankees and the Red Sox and the AL East in general has, they have pitched in these hitters' ballparks their whole careers or their whole span of the team. So
I think they did. I think they kind of addressed this without really saying up front, this is what we're doing. And you know what I think they did? They went out and got all these defenders.
Oh, yeah.
They knew this isn't going to be talked about a lot. These dimensions are just going to be kind of an inside thing. People are going to know about it, but it's not going to be big mainstream news. So we don't want this to smack us in the face at the end of the season. Let's just get a really good defensive club around these hitters. And I think it could help the pitching a lot. Like, it's probably – we talked about adjusting for the pitching. I think this is a huge, part of that adjustment is getting Kiermaier, Varsho, and didn't they get another really good defender?
No,
Belt. Even Belt is good first.
Just move it. No, we gained defense in the outfield just by getting rid of Lourdes and Teoscar.
And
that
replacing them with
and
gold
replacing them with
glovers.
gold glovers, and then putting Springer, who's already an average to above average defender, in a corner where he's not in center anymore. Was the big, like, okay, because now every single position in our outfield is very, it's very tight-knit, not letting the ball get down. And yes, I do completely agree. I think they 100% knew the dimensions. Obviously, the organization knew before they went into it. And they said, even though already, as we talked about previously in the podcast nonstop, the goal in the offseason was obviously run prevention and to get better at defense. But at the same time, I mean, how much more does a defensive outfield mean now that you don't even have 400 feet in your ballpark? Nothing drops.
Yeah.
I mean, not nothing, obviously, but nothing remotely close drops.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's all about closing the gaps, and there's no gaps to close anymore.
Yeah.
They're all closed. They close themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
357 in right center. It's either going over the wall or you're catching it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
I mean,
line drives are your enemy if you're an outfielder.
there, yeah.
You just
For
want
sure.
it to be at least some sort of a launch angle.
Yeah, and then to dig a little bit more into the renovations, because I know, obviously, the outfield dimensions is what people, first want to know about. But to dig a little bit more,
If you're a fan of if you happen to be in Toronto,
right?
they're just renovating it a little bit more, and they're adding some more fan-friendly innovations to the park, like some new food and beverage areas, expanded seating where you can have a big open view in the right field corner, right?
Right, yeah, and some really cool stuff like, for example, this is going to feed into the outfield. They are bulging the bullpens out. Basically, they're putting a wall around the bullpens where it's going to be much shorter, because if you know Toronto, you can't see the bullpen from above, or not from above, from the broadcast view, because the wall is so high.
Yeah.
So that's coming down to like a White Sox kind of fence area, but it bulges out. So it kind of like, the best way to describe it is it kind of makes an oval around left field, and then it starts hooking around the wall. And it's going to be the same thing in right center, and that's why it's 357.
Yeah, it's
That's
cutting
because
a little bit off.
the one in right center is the away bullpen.
Gotcha.
So right center is the away bullpen, and dead left is the Blue Jays bullpen.
Nice.
So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And that,
I mean, it is cutting off the gaps, like you said.
But with that said, though, another reason to have a good defense out there, a bunch of different wall shapes, a bunch of different dimensions. Balls are going to bounce in other ways. Kevin Kiermaier is going to be busy as hell in center field.
They're going to have to take a lot of practice shots off that wall for sure.
Oh, yeah. They're going to have to know how to play it off the oval.
Opposing teams.
It's going to be insane. It's going to be definitely a work in progress. But, again, as you're about to bring up, opposing teams are going to have a nightmare with it. You know how opposing teams have a nightmare in Tampa? Just to bring up an AL East rival with, the catwalk and everything.
Yeah.
And Tampa outfielders like Kevin Kiermaier are just like, or was Kevin Kiermaier, like, I know what I'm doing. They always had issues with that with the away teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think any little advantage you can get, and that's an advantage in my eyes, any little advantage you can get specifically with your ballpark, take it.
Yeah.
And you talk about the Orioles moving their left field fence back. We weren't as good, so let's have nobody hit home runs to left, right? Mm-hmm. Now they're long flyouts. Yeah. Let's, stuff like that. So
yeah. So we'll see how it all works out. I really think it could be like a spark in a way, just to uplift the offense.
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
So we'll see.
I think it's a bigger story than a lot of people think it is.
Yeah. Well, I know Twins fans are waiting. They're waiting for the dagger. Luis Arraez was traded to the Miami Marlins. And I'm just going to say, I'm still a little depressed from it all.
Understandable.
Really?
Yes, for those of you that don't know, as Keaton just mentioned, Luis Arraez was traded to the Miami Marlins for Pablo Lopez and a couple prospects. Keaton, as you can tell, is audibly and visibly shook up about it because I believe Luis Arraez is your favorite player.
He is my guy.
But
he's my guy. For anyone who doesn't know me, know my Twitter account, Luis is my favorite player in all of sports. Literally, baseball, basketball, football, every single sport. He's my guy. So this was like, me and Brett were on the phone when it happened, and I'm sure you could tell I was heartbroken.
Yeah, I was actually the one who broke him the news. I
Yeah.
asked him we saw the Ken Rosenthal tweet, and he said, what tweet? And I had to break the news to him. But with that said, now that you've had a couple of days to calm down, now what are we thinking about the deal in general before I say my piece?
You're right. I've had some days to digest the news, the hit, the blow to the heart. I've had some time to go through the grieving process. It is an A+ trade. Like,
For sure.
it's an A+. It's not an A-. It's not an A. I've really looked at this, and I've come to the conclusion that if you're gonna sell high on Luis Arraez, this would probably be the best way to do it. So
I mean, this is a massive win for the Twins.
And
in my opinion,
yeah,
from an outside perspective, I get it. As Twins fans, you're like Luis Arraez, but they have made that move was so essential for them to even contend in the Central. And I'm serious. Even though I know the Central is bad, their pitching staff moving forward from there would not have made it. It would not. Without Pablo Lopez, that team does not make it. And I genuinely believe that.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe. And then also on top of it, they got 2 prospects, one being in the top 5 of the Marlins system. That's literally for one guy who, mind you, just as a side note, from the Marlins perspective, like, made no sense to just go get Luis Arraez, considering he only has 3 years left. I don't think the Marlins are 3 years out from competing. But with that said, they broke prospect capital for him, which if it was Lopez for Arraez, that's an A for the Twins. But they broke prospect capital for him. And I think the Twins...
Yeah, and his name is Jose Salas, who's actually he's in the top 100 in MLB. So they didn't just get like an internal.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yeah, he's like 96 in the top 100 in Baseball Prospectus. So there's that, and they then got a 17-year-old also named Byron. His name's we're getting another Byron outfielder in the Twins organization, Byron Churio. Kind of a funny name, but it's apparently he's like a 4-tools player. He just doesn't hit for homers, but he's a really high on base percentage guy, fast, good tools, and just, again, you look at the trade simulator and it's Arraez at like 27, and they're receiving like 58 in value.
Oh, easily.
So 27 to 58, it's around that ballpark, Like, it's a steal. It is just...
It's literally robbery.
Yeah. And a lot of people think it's like the Barrios trade. Like, not that we're saying we robbed you, but in terms of what we got back, people did not expect Barrios to... They expected Barrios to bring back SWR, but
Right.
not Austin Martin. That was when everybody was like, whoa. So when we got Lopez, everybody was like, okay, we're probably going to get like one little minor leaguer back. All of a sudden, it's in the top 100, and then another guy. So
Yeah,
it was like, whoa, okay, that's a lot better. That made me feel a little bit better about the situation. Because now we're going to be able to say, even 10 years from now, hopefully this Chorio guy is good. Hopefully Salas is decent. We can be able to have something even more than just Lopez out of Luis.
I mean, of course, what were we saying, on a previous podcast about the Twins regarding, when we were talking about the Correa news and them going to maybe sign a pitcher or trade for a pitcher? There it is. Mm-hmm. Now it's, again, you got Correa back. You build the puzzle around him. The next step was pitching. That rotation was not going to make it.
Yeah.
Now you look at it, and it's like, in my opinion, and I'm sure a bunch of fans' opinions in baseball in general, they are, they have to be either with or maybe even slightly above the Guardians for the favorites of the division, just because now they have a solidified rotation.
Yeah.
Right.
According to Fangraphs, Guardians are still ahead, but the Twins did get a tad better.
I will say though, with that said, it's almost a lock. Obviously, minus injuries occurring, which again with Minnesota sports, this always happens.
Yeah.
But healthy Twins team.
Relatively healthy.
Relatively healthy Twins team is 100% second place in the Central.
Yeah.
It is second place.
That's the floor.
That is the floor. The White Sox, good luck.
Yeah, and I think this trade actually just made our floor higher.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, 100%.
Because you almost certainly, you have now Ober and Paddock as your 6 and 7 guys, who one of them will start in AAA now. Like, when you have those two guys to fall back, and then you have Winder, Varland, and Simeon Woods-Richardson as well, it's the depth that is the security. And the Lopez deal is what, like, turns that depth into a solidified unit. Because before, you still had chances of calling up guys like Derek Rodriguez or, you know, guys similar to Devin Smeltzer. When he's not on the team anymore, but that was a common theme in the Twins team for the last 10 years, is constantly having to call up guys like that and having to hear it from opposing fan bases. I feel like we don't have a single pitcher now who can be laughed at, to put it that way. Even our 8, 9, and 10 pitchers are all prospects, and they proved themselves last year.
Yeah.
So, you know, and again, this is going to help the bullpen too, because Lopez can go deep into games. I think Rocco's finally going to pull the trigger and put pitchers past the 5th inning. God, he needs to do that. I think you're getting rid of Chris Archer and Dylan Bundy, right? You have to go deeper into games now. Those two guys are not on your team anymore. No more struggling in the 4th inning. You got Lopez, Gray, Molly, Joe Ryan, and Bailey Ober and Kenta Maeda. You need to push them into the 6th as much as you can. Because Rocco that's a big thing in Twins community, is hating on Rocco for pulling every pitcher in the 5th because of injuries, because of the 3rd time around, because of righty-lefty platoons, you name it. And Twins fans, they're sick of it. They just want a pitcher who can complete the 6th inning. And honestly, I don't know if that's the big answer. Obviously, if a pitcher goes 6 innings, you can still get it ruined in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. But they just want to know that we're not going to ruin it in the 6th because Rocco pulled the starter. Like, they'd rather it be ruined in the 7th, 8th, or 9th than having Emilio Pagan come in the 6th.
Right.
And now that I just really feel like this is the deepest rotation we've ever had, that I've ever witnessed in my life, and I'm 25 years old. I've never witnessed this deep of a rotation in my life.
Yeah, pretty good.
And I don't know if I speak for other young Twins fans, but I'm used to Jose Barrios and then a whole bunch of 4s and 5s.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we have a whole bunch of 2s and 3s.
Agreed.
And a couple.
Yeah,
of
no,
4s.
you definitely do. No, and again, that was the rotation. I wouldn't say it was necessarily a question mark, but it was definitely the deciding factor.
Right.
For sure. It was definitely now that we got Correa back and we got the offense back, where can we improve from here?
Exactly.
Because they reminded me a lot of, like, the Yankees when they got Judge back. It's like, wow, okay, you signed Aaron Judge back, but where did you improve from last year, Ed? And then they went and got Rodon, right? So then it's like, okay, now we got pitching. Because, you know, the best teams address, obviously, both sides of the ball. You address your hitting, you address your pitching. They did that as key and collected as possible.
Yeah.
And then I know you have a little bit more to talk about, maybe about this move, but that does kind of lead into our next move when we get there. But on the topic of, you know, Lopez and Arraez, or Lopez for Arraez for Lopez, again, as Keaton mentioned, A+ move. It's a move that I think brings the Twins over the top, and I would be ecstatic as a Twins fan if that, you know, that occurrence.
Yeah, I think I would agree. It's going to be a move we're going to talk about for years because of the prospects involved. We're going to be able to have Louis' name attached to a lot of it. And who's to say we don't go trade this guy we just got? You know, he's in the top 100, so he's got a lot of value to a lot of clubs and a lot of scouts, and we still could get more pitching with him.
And then obviously
we have Brooks Lee, Royce Lewis, Austin Martin, and now Salas. So that's 4 really amazing shortstop prospects. I would not mind trading 2 of them if we had to go get like a Brandon Woodruff or like something
there's
like that.
There's a lot of big fish you can go get with those guys, and obviously with that also the trade pieces, looking just at what Pablo Lopez adds to a team. God, is he good? I love Pablo Lopez.
Yeah,
I have always loved Pablo Lopez, and I'm a huge Marlins pitching fan in general. But there's something about him that I just didn't think they would cough up.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know much about Lopez, I know we've taken a while to get to that, but he's a big frame, big guy. I believe he's like 6'5", 6'6", but heavy sinker, really heavy sinker changeup. Elite changeup, elite sinker. And for those of you that would like an example, I'd actually really compare him to a Bailey Ober type of pitcher, not because of success. They're not the same success pitcher. And what I mean by that is they both have really good extensions. They both finish really close to home plate. And so it creates a lot of deception with their pitches. It creates batters to whiff a lot and to swing at pitches out of the zone. Having that big frame, that long extension has really helped them, and I think that's what the Twins were drawn to. Ultimately, they've been in on Lopez for years. They've actually tried to get him the last 2 off seasons and the last 2 trade deadlines, and nothing's worked out. So it's kind of come full circle to where they got their guy Luis. But yeah, he had a 3.75 ERA last year. 2021 was when he really blossomed. And the Twins are hoping that they can really let me actually see that.
Yeah, and on that year of 2021, actually I have his statistics pulled up here. He had an ERA plus of 138. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
That's ace level.
That's elite. That's literally elite. That's nuts.
What was his FIP?
He had a FIP of 3.29, which is very good as
That's
well.
amazing.
That's amazing.
You want it to be below 3.8 typically.
Yeah. Yeah, no, right. And then on top of that, last year was even a good year, and that was, in my opinion, a down year. Before we go into that, 2020, which obviously was a shortened year, he had an ERA plus of 126. Mm-hmm. And then, like I mentioned, 2021 was 138. 2022 was 108, which is still good. Very good.
That's still good.
That's still very good.
An above average.
And then a FIP of 3.71, which is still very good.
Yeah.
And, when you dive into it like that, and something that really caught my eye last year is he pitched, compared to his 2022, where it was 102 innings, he pitched 180 innings last year. Oh, exactly.
That is heaven to my
Now,
ears.
that is legitimately 78 more innings of
Twins fans.
78 more innings eaten.
How does that sound, Twins fans? You're going to finally have a pitcher who will likely pitch 100 innings. We hardly ever get that.
And also, that's 180. Yeah. And also, if the stats are saying a word about every year he increases innings, obviously 180 is a hard mark to hit. Guy could throw like 190. Guy could get up to 200 if you really wanted to. Mm-hmm. He's increasing it every year.
Yeah.
So that's showing you that he's becoming more comfortable with eating innings, and that is a massive thing for the Twins.
Yeah. And again, talking about pitching, another move that I think is that the Twins just made last night that's going to help this pitching staff is they went out and traded for Michael A. Taylor with the Royals.
Yeah.
And a lot of you guys either know about him from watching him with the Royals. He is an elite center fielder, like actually the best since 2020. He has the most defensive runs saved out of all outfielders. And Twins fans, you're going to like this list because since 2020, the most defensive runs saved in the outfield is number 1, Michael Taylor, number 2, Joey Gallo, and tied for 3rd is Buxton.
That's nuts.
And of course, Varsho would be on that list if it was since 2021, and then Kiermaier would be on that list if he had the amount he's close on that list. So I always go back to it. Me and you, we're going to be watching the best outfields in all of baseball.
That's legitimately not letting a pin drop.
Yeah.
Specifically of the Twins outfield.
And we didn't even mention Kepler.
Kepler's on that list too, isn't he?
He's on the list, but he doesn't save as many runs, but it's crazy how good this outfield is going to be.
I think it's insane.
And Taylor, he's not going to be a starter, but he'll be plugged in a lot.
No, Michael Taylor was. I love Michael Taylor. I've always liked Michael Taylor. I think it's a great move. Not to bring the Jays up, but it is that Brandon Belt move. It is that move that you didn't know you needed until it happened, right? Mm-hmm. It's that backup move that you're like, oh wait, we didn't have that guy, right? That's gonna play a lot.
Yeah, we just had Celestino.
Yeah, now who's gonna come in on an off day? Now who's gonna come in on a platoon day? Now who's going to come in
Backup Buxton.
Now let's get Buxton off his feet a little bit more because he's injury prone for a DH. Oh, wait, you're losing Buxton's defense? No, you're getting Michael Taylor out there.
Yeah.
It's completely... Actually, Taylor's a better defender.
Yeah.
Which is like, whoa, because obviously Byron Buxton's valued so much for his defense that's the huge factor of it, that you can now take Buxton, you can DH him, and you could still have that defense of Buxton, but better.
I've been saying it for years. Buxton needs a viable backup. We cannot keep putting Kepler out there or Nick Gordon. Like I even liked it better when we had guys backing up out there like Sam Fold. Like guys who were just so elite defenders that their bat was almost as good as a pitcher.
Like a Bradley Zimmer?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I would almost rather have that than Kepler being in a position that he's not comfortable. He's fine at center. But it's not you're begging for something wrong to happen. And so knowing that we're always going to have an elite defender in center and not just Celestino. So Celestino's solid. He's still 23 years old, so he's got tons of room to grow. He'll be fine in AAA. But having Michael A. Taylor is huge. And you're right. That was a move that we didn't know we needed. We knew we needed somebody, but like we were expecting a bigger bat or maybe like a flashier name. But in the end, this is something that will help the whole pitching staff, and it'll help Buxton when he's DH. Because let's face it, Buxton is not playing 100-plus games in center field.
No way.
Let's see if he plays 100 games, period.
No, this prolongs him. You know, Buxton says, hey, he's had knee issues, right?
Knee, ankle, everything you can name.
You name it, right? So, hey, I need to get off my feet for today, but I don't want my bat out of the lineup, or we don't want your bat out of the lineup. Okay, go DH. We'll put a better defender out there.
Yeah.
Which is something that I can't
Or
even
just
saying,
the same type of guy. I mean, I've watched highlights of him, and he just glides just like Buxton.
Oh, yeah.
So.
And again, I'll say it one more time, he's even a better defender statistically.
Great arm.
So, that was a great move.
And he steals bases. The Twins are one of the slowest teams in baseball last year. Our fastest runner was like, I could...
Buxton's fast, but yeah.
But yeah, we don't steal with him, though, because of injury. So, like, we didn't have anyone stealing bases. Maybe Nick Gordon, maybe Polanco, but they're not fast. So it's nice to have Taylor come off the bench. You know, someone gets on base, or Larnick, Kirilloff, someone gets on base at the end of a game. We need more speed per pinch runner.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is all going to help the Twins in major ways. We're going to be talking about Michael Taylor as a hero on some nights. We're going to be talking about him on the Web Gem highlight one night. It'll be just here and there, little bits and pieces. And he had a 3.2 WAR last year. People don't look at that. We lost Gio Urshela, who had a 3.1. We just replaced it with a 3.2. It's a different...
And as a backup.
Yeah, it's a different 3.1. It's a different 3.2. It's a little bit of a different tool set. But you're getting that value that could potentially help the whole club, actually, as opposed to just the lineup.
This is literally, again, but since it is a Twins Jays podcast, I'll bring it up. This is literally the same... It seems like the same literal infrastructure of the Varsho for Teoscar, right? You maybe take out but you get less offense back maybe, but you get much more value just from the defensive side. And that move in specific made me realize how valuable defense is, right?
Yeah.
To a team, and just how much it gets underappreciated when you're talking about statistics and guys in the league, right?
Because we look at pitchers so often and we think, well, what was their defense like that day? We don't. We
You don't think about
we hardly
that,
ever think
right?
that.
You think about the pitcher as a soul, right?
Yeah, you blame everything on that ERA you're looking at.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just this new age of baseball we're in, where we're valuing defense now. It's like we're picking up players that we would have been ragging on 10 years ago. And we look at their baseball savant pages now and we're like, holy crap, I can't wait to watch him do that. I know he's not going to be good at this. So let's see how this factors into things.
Strengths,
and like,
right?
yeah, let's see how we put him in positions to excel. Like,
we're no longer asking what his batting average is, right? Like we would have 10 years ago.
Yeah. And
how many home runs did he hit, right?
Yeah. And for those of you wondering, Michael Taylor actually has a little bit of pop in his bat. He hit 9 home runs last year. And he has a good playoff history with the Nationals. He won a World Series with the Nationals. He has a couple really good home runs against the Cubs in 2017, I remember. He had some game-winning homers. So I'm not saying he'll be a hero in the playoffs for the Twins. Obviously, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
he could be.
He's 31. He's been in the playoffs. It's never bad to add a player that's been to the playoffs. So, putting him in there with some younger guys.
Very Brandon Belt-ish, in my opinion. Very, again, the move you thought you didn't need.
Yeah.
It opens up a lot of avenues to win.
And no one's saying, and the Twins, obviously he has 2 years of control. They're not thinking about next year. This is just for this year. They're thinking, if we want him next year, we can bring him back. But we want him for this team right now, because if anybody gets hurt, we are good to go if anyone gets hurt.
Yeah.
Because before, they just had Celestino and Larnick and, Wallner. So, now they have a bona fide Gold Glover. I think they're really just focusing on solidifying that floor, and Taylor gives that bench a floor. You have that bench, listen to this, Farmer, Gordon, Vasquez and Jeffers as catchers, and now Taylor as your bench. I think that is a solid, if not top 5 bench in all of baseball. People don't realize Farmer was just as productive as Gio Urshela the last few years. And like I said, Taylor had the same WAR as Urshela. And then Jeffers and Vasquez, you just platoon those guys. The defense of this team up the middle with Correa, Vasquez, and Jeffers all around is an amazing platoon, bench, and defense. I'm loving every minute of it. So
yeah, no, and I mean, Twins fans, again, Keaton mentioned, although it's not the most flashy move, this is something to be ecstatic about. I love it. I'm looking at the Twins from an opponent perspective, and this is going to be crazy, right? We talk about how much we just talked about the Jays and how much we're going to value a defensive outfield with a little ballpark. How much more do you value it with more ground to cover, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these are going to be plays that, guys, anyone less than Michael Taylor can't make, right? And it's just so much value. It opens so many avenues, as I mentioned, and it's just, it's unbelievable.
I think it's going to open up a trade for Kepler.
And that on top of it, too, and also, you can think about it like this, although I know you want to trade Kepler now, probably.
But this means our payroll is now at 155. So this is about right where the Twins like to call it quits.
Okay, so how about you put Kepler in a package with one of those prospects, one of those shortstop prospects, and go get a first baseman. Go replace Luis Arraez.
I would absolutely love that.
It opens up so many avenues. It really does. That Taylor move is going to be undervalued and underappreciated for forever.
Yeah.
And until he plays.
Or get a reliever. You could trade Kepler, hopefully trade Kepler for a reliever, and if no one budges on that, just trade him so you can get some money off the books and then go get Yuli Gurriel.
Yeah.
It's all that's left. If that's all you can,
really
you know what I mean? We need a right-handed bat with thump.
Or go get Sano back.
Jeez.
Yeah.
What Twins fans would riot.
What a full circle event that would be. But no, sum it up, 2 very, very good moves by the Twins. And I saw a list the other day. Let's see if I could pull it up real quick.
What was it?
It was the offseason they've had in terms of names. And it was
blew
my mind.
It's been Gallo, Vasquez, Michael Taylor, Correa,
And Lopez.
All of them
alive.
defenders. All of them defenders pretty much. And then Lopez and Correa are even better just because they're flashier names.
Take the Twins name away. Take any name away. And you name those guys. It's an A offseason. It really is. It really is a great offseason.
I agree.
And, I mean, you don't even have to mention the subtractions. You just mention the additions, and it's just... And who do they subtract? Arraez?
They subtracted Arraez, but really they subtracted Gary Sanchez, Dylan Bundy, Chris Archer.
Yeah, they subtracted guys that would have hurt the team.
Yeah, exactly. And replaced them with guys who won't be laughed at.
Yeah.
I'm sick of being laughed at. I'm sick of... I mean, I talked about this with my buddy Nash Walker. For those of you that don't know who that is, he's an awesome Twins podcaster. But yeah, we were talking about it, and all of our buddies, Sox fans, they laughed for years when we would send out guys like Chris Archer, Dylan Bundy, Mike Pelfrey, you name it. Just all these neck breakers where they would throw the ball down the middle and watch it sail. So... it's nice to know that we're not going to have any of those. And I've said it before, but it's just refreshing. And I think the depth of this staff with Lopez added now is good to win the AL Central.
I agree. Yeah. And it definitely, again, it gives them the floor to at least get second place, and who knows where they can go from there.
Right.
I mean, that division is just...
it's up for grabs.
It is completely up for grabs.
Well... call it a night now.
Yeah, I think we've got everything off the table.
Yeah.
Those were our topics for today. I hope you guys enjoyed everything we brought into it. And
we know it's sad. We know it was a tough day for a lot of you. I mean, and then another thing about that trade is I've noticed it's not like a normal trade where the outside fan bases usually disrespect the star, and the in-house fans love them. It's how do I say it? The people outside of baseball are worshiping this trade, but people inside the Twins are hating on it, even though they got the better deal. Usually, I feel like the outside fan
dramatically
base,
a better deal. Though.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I'm mixing this up, but I feel like sometimes the outside fan base sides with the star, and
a little bit, yeah. Well,
if that makes sense.
You're talking about like the common knowledge.
Yeah, like a casual fan.
Right, well, you don't know exactly. You don't know the brink of it.
Yeah, I just feel like so many more Minnesota fans are up in arms than national fans. Like, normal national-based fans are like, this is a great deal. This is great. But then you talk to a Twins fan, and they're angry. Like, they're yelling at you.
For any of the Twins fans that are angry, you just kind of look into your team a little bit more. Because, I mean...
It's okay to be sad.
It is a night and day team with Pablo Lopez.
Yeah.
And what they got back value-wise.
Yeah. That's basically... I was just saying the contrast between Twins fans.
Right.
I didn't explain it well, but... The contrast, usually it's the other way around. Usually the fan bases inside love the deal.
Because they know the value of their players.
Right. But they're almost ridiculing the deal because we got rid of them. And I don't know how to explain it. I just think Minnesota fans they're kind of overreacting, and they're kind of...
Minnesota casuals?
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a very emotional few days. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah. Other than that, we'll leave you guys with that. If you have any ideas for the show, just tweet at us. Hit me up in the DMs. Go ahead and follow and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.
Alrighty, thank you.